How's it going, guys? John here from the Kilobits, and today we are getting over it with Bennett Foddy. Yes, the mad genius that brought us QWOP is back with another slightly weird game, shall we say, in which we play as, well, a guy in a cauldron swinging a sledgehammer around. Now, first of all, full disclosure, I'm actually recording this audio in post because, well, one, I was anticipating a lot of editing in this video. Admittedly, it didn't happen in the end, but this game does require a certain degree of concentration because, well, it's odd and it's very mechanically driven, as you can probably tell, because we're this guy swinging a sledgehammer to get around.
There's no feeling more intense than starting over.
So yeah, to start off with, that is Bennett Foddy himself. He's like a one-man band. He has done all the kind of design, the programming, the graphics, the voiceover, and he constantly chimes in with these tidbits of information. Some of it is about the design of the game. Some of it is like words of encouragement, words of disappointment, little philosophical musings. And it is very strange, shall we say.
Like, if you've already had a bad day, then what you're about to go through might be too much. Feel free to go away and come back. I'll be here.
And as the man says there, this is a frustrating game. Straight off the bat, it's odd, it's weird, and it will probably have you raging at points, because for as simple as it looks, you know, you're a dude swinging a hammer, it can be a little difficult to get to grips with.
This game is a homage to a free game that came out in 2002, titled Sexy Hiking. The author of that game was Jasmine, a mysterious Czech designer who was known at the time as the father of B games. And B games are rough assemblages of found objects. Designers slap them together very quickly and freely, and they're often too rough and unfriendly to gain much of a following. They're built more for the
so
building, though.
This is a homage to another game called Sexy Hiking, and I did actually, after playing this, seek it out, and God, it's a rough-looking prototype, I will say that much. But you can see where that kind of nugget of inspiration was, and this feels like it's very much a game designer's game. As I said, it's mechanically driven, there's not any story involved. You are a dude in a cauldron trying to get up a mountain, and the fact we have this kind of narration from the designer himself giving us these kind of insights and inspirations and all that kind of thing, it reminded me a lot of Davy Rendon's game, The Beginner's Guide, because that was supposedly built on all this kind of these odd prototype games, and we had Davey voicing this narration about what was a guy called Coder, I think it was. Now, I didn't actually play the game myself, but I did see gameplay of it, and that was, you know, a very different looking game, but I think this has that same kind of spirit, and even in the credits, Bennett actually gives thanks to David Rendon for The Beginner's Guide as a kind of an inspiration for this game. And I will say, some people are going to accuse this as being a kind of artsy type game, and I can see where they're coming from. You know, occasionally having, you know, these philosophical musings by Shakespeare or Nietzsche, you know, it's, yeah, I mean, it's a little bit cringe and, you know, maybe a little self-indulgent on Bennett's part, but at the same time, it kind of all works. This is an artsy game, and it should embrace that. It's experimental, it's off-kilter, it's definitely not mainstream. I mean, look at it. We are a guy in a cauldron trying to climb a mountain with a sledgehammer. This just screams, you know, weird and odd, and it's probably appropriate that this is actually being backed by Humble themselves. It's one of the Humble originals, part of the Humble Trove, which you can access with, you know, if you sign up to Humble Monthly, their subscription box service. And this is how I got hold of it. But it is coming to Steam and the Humble store itself. But it's weird and different, and I kind of love it for being what it is.
Essential to the act of climbing, and
It's
is
something a
authentic to
little
the process
different.
Of building a game about climbing. A funny thing happened to me as I was building this mountain. I'd have an idea for a new obstacle, and I'd build it, test it, and it would usually turn out to be unreasonably hard. But I couldn't bring myself to make it easier. It already felt like my inability to get past the new obstacle was my fault as a player rather than as a builder. Imaginary mountains build themselves from our efforts to climb them, and it's our repeated attempts to reach the summit that turns those mountains into something real.
So you're probably noticing now, I have managed to make it up this mountain a lot quicker than I did in my first stream. I took a while, let's just say. It was rage-inducing and everything, but this is one of those games you start to learn how to play it by experiencing it. There's a lot of trial and error, and you also kind of discover new ways to propel yourself. So obviously, you initially start off literally just wildly swinging the hammer. And if you're anything like me, you will get a notification from Bennett going, you've clicked the mouse button 500 times. Maybe don't grip the mouse so tight. Because I automatically thought, well, I have to, press the mouse button to actually use the hammer to grip. Swing and press to grip on the point. But no, it is literally just swinging the mouse in circles or whatever movement, you will slowly kind of propel yourself. And you're seeing here, I'm just doing very, very tiny movements just to try and nudge myself towards the edge of that platform. So you do discover kind of new methods to propel yourself, whether it's, doing this wild swinging arc to kind of gain momentum, or to actually, push the mallet down underneath you to propel you up in like a bunny hop jump. Or here, where I'm trying to drag myself onto this gantry. But the game, for as little as it tells you how to actually operate this guy, you kind of pick it up fairly easily. But at the same time, it is frustrating.
Oh, you just lost a lot of progress. That's a deep frustration, a real punch in the gut.
Yep, you're right there, Bennett. So this is one of those games where, this is almost an allegory for life. We are making this constant uphill struggle, and, the slightest misstep, and we find ourselves propelled back down. I actually tweeted after playing this first that, Bennett is some kind of sadistic genius, and this is the perfect allegory for life. It's, one step forward, 3 steps back, or, if you're really unlucky, 1 step forward, oh dear, I've fallen down a mountain. But as you go, you learn how to pull yourself back up again. And I hate to sound, like it's some kind of philosophical discussion, but there is something there, You do discover new methods to move forward. You do discover that, even if you find yourself back at the beginning, which I have done many, many, many times, you can pick yourself back up, and you can probably get to where you were a lot quicker than you did the first time. We're what, like 9 minutes into this video? Something like that? And I didn't even get to this point in the first hour previously. So you do learn how to move, and then you hit a roof and you fall back down again. But like I said, the failing in this is a great kind of teaching mechanic. And I almost ended up down the bottom of the mountain again there. It's painful to watch this back, but I'm still learning, and this is one of those games that carries on teaching you every time you pick it up. And as I said, it's some kind of like weird Zen-like torture. It's hard to explain, but if you play it, you'll instantly recognise what I'm trying to say. There's something very addictive about it, and for as simple as it is, there is, a lot here. And, you get as much out of it as you put into it. It's not a very deep game, but it will have you keep coming back for more. And like I said, it's got this kind of weird, almost... You can use it as an allegory for, life, any struggle. It's, there's always this kind of uphill challenge, and sometimes there's a sheer cliff face that you have no idea how you're going to get across. Sometimes you need to kind of experiment. Sometimes you need to fail. And you will then discover something that works. Whether it is, just rather than swinging wildly, you just need to do these kind of small tweaks to propel yourself forward. And every time you try, you get a little bit better. It's cheesy, I know, but this is what the game kind of teaches you as you move forward, or move back in this case. It's very, very odd. It's very odd to kind of explain to somebody without showing them, and even harder, without them experiencing it for themselves. It's a weird self-inflicted torture. People go, well, Dark Souls, I don't need a girlfriend. Dark Souls fucks me every day. There is something about this, it is going to screw with you, but it's satisfying at the same time. I don't know. I've become a masochist playing this game, and I would say it's not particularly pretty. It's got this very stylistic look. I mean, it does all look like almost like Unity assets. Some of the objects, and even Bennett goes on a little bit of a diatribe saying, people were speculating that every game is just going to be made up of store assets and all that kind of thing. And if you watch any Jimquisition and that, you'll probably think that's the case. The amount of trash we have turning up on the Steam pages, all this kind of Unity asset flip, trash, hundreds and hundreds of games. But no, somebody take a cursive look at this would think that this is in that kind of same kind of vein, but it isn't. There is something very, very clever about this, and very, very engaging. And I highly recommend, if you're interested in weird games, so interested in something different, it's definitely worth checking out, even if you have to wait until December for it to turn up on the Steam store. But regardless,
the vertical wall here has a way of getting harder the more times you try it. I think anger makes you swing the hammer harder, and that can push you away from the wall.
Well, regardless, if you like swinging your hammer hard, why not swing it onto that like button if you've enjoyed this weird little first impressions of mine. There you go. I know, tenuous link. But yeah, if you have enjoyed this first impressions, do give us a like if you enjoyed it, or let us know in the comments below what you think, or you can always reach us on any of the socials over at the Kilobits, or of course, maybe subscribe if you want to see more first impressions like this. I've been John. This has been Getting Over It with Bennett Foddy, and I'll see you next time.
Maybe this is what digital culture is. A monstrous mountain of trash, the ash heap of creativity's fountain. A landfill with everything we ever thought of in it. Grand, infinite, and unsorted. Oof, sorry about that.